up on the discussion segment of this panel actually. So Joseph LUBIN has joined us, is founder and CEO of ConsenSys, and actually you were part of the Ethereum adventure. It might have been quite a journey there. And Olaf CARLSON-WEE, founder and CEO of Polychain Capital. Well, actually, before founding your own company, you had a big hand on propelling Coinbase. So, gentlemen, I'll leave you to the discussion part, and yeah, where blockchain can bring us to?
So, Joseph, we met in your Brooklyn offices as I stopped over from a conference back from Media Lab. I would like you to introduce yourself and to let us know if your office door still looks like the picture in the upper left, and let us know what has happened with ConsenSys since we met.
Yeah, there are far more stickers now, I think. Every time we create new software, we create a sticker and put it on the outside door. So background is technology and finance, academically an engineer and computer scientist. Did work in robotics, machine vision, general software engineering. Ended up at the Goldman Sachs company to start my transition into the world of finance, and ended up running a set of hedge funds beyond that. So based on my background and due to the fact that Bitcoin is at the intersection of databases and cryptography and monetary theory, it was impossible for me to miss it early. I was aware of it as early as roughly first quarter 2011. Not extremely early, but early enough. But there wasn't, it was a naive space, a space where lots of idealists were trying to build things and they weren't doing a mature, secure job of things. There wasn't anything I really wanted to do in terms of building a business. Still, there was so much potential pregnant in the Bitcoin white paper. In 2012, mid-2012, lots of people started to think that this set of components that constituted a decentralized database system that supported a single use case, the use case of transmission and storage of a value token, should really be deployed or should really enable many other use cases to be built on top of it. And in mid-2012, many different groups were trying to build different approaches to that. Vitalik Buterin, genius that he is, was working on a number of those different projects and participated in some of those white papers. And he realized that all of these very smart people were working way too slowly, weren't really achieving the kind of progress that one would expect. And his analysis was that they were building in an unscalable way. They were trying to add one new feature at a time, either at the protocol level or at the client level, and that was an unscalable approach. So he took a step back and said, instead of adding a new button at each pocket calculator at every peer-to-peer, every node of a peer-to-peer system, let's put a general purpose computer there. And he wrote that up in the Ethereum white paper, and the Ethereum platform was effectively born. 7 of us formed around Vitalik, created the Ethereum project, funded it, and delivered it about 15, 16 months ago. Currently, tens of thousands of software developers are building on it, and thousands of companies. So about 2 years ago, I ramped down my activities on the Ethereum project, ramped up a company called ConsenSys to build decentralized applications for public Ethereum blockchain, as well as private permissioned versions of the technology. We built lots of the infrastructure for the ecosystem, and currently we're 120 people around the world, half of which are working on product, half of which are working on consulting in enterprises focusing on energy, insurance, other financial services, healthcare, supply chain management, music, etc.
So that's probably a 20% increase in headcount as compared to when I visited you in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what it is today, actually.
Olaf, we met in Paris last June as you were speaking at the USI conference. And at the time you were still with Coinbase, if I'm correct, but working on your next project. You were employee number 1 at Coinbase, and now it seems that you are founder number 1 in your new venture. So what is Polychain Capital doing?
Yeah, so Polychain Capital is a hedge fund that invests solely in blockchain-based assets. So I invest directly in tokens like Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't invest in any companies and hold no shares. This means the entire portfolio is liquid. However, this is not limited to cryptocurrencies. I invest in many so-called app coins, and these are native tokens that add a monetary layer to peer-to-peer networks. So historically speaking, peer-to-peer networks have been fully altruistic. People participate in torrent seeding and in Tor onion routing, hosting Tor relay nodes. It's all sort of altruistic. People participate ideologically. However, when you look at less sort of sexy uses of peer-to-peer, so things like distributed file storage or distributed computation, you actually need an incentivized layer on top of that peer-to-peer network. So that's one of the main ways I think about the app coin trend that's actually coming out of a lot of ConsenSys projects. These are meta tokens built on top of Ethereum for the most part that actually power peer-to-peer networks with a monetary layer. So before Polychain Capital, I found out about Bitcoin actually roughly the same time that you did, Joseph. I became totally obsessed, and I was going into my senior year of college and actually wrote my undergraduate thesis on Bitcoin. I then joined Coinbase, which is the largest digital asset exchange in the United States, as the first employee, and was the head of risk there for 3.5 years before leaving earlier this summer to found Polychain Capital.
So thank you, Olaf. As you might have understood, you who are in the room, we have two specialists. And the challenge we are facing is to address the question that was at the beginning, which is, will blockchain technology be the ultimate trust solution? We've decided to break this down into 5 sets of questions. Trust in people, trust in code, trust in oracles and smart contracts, trust in cryptocurrencies and crypto assets at large, and trust in the future of blockchain. So about trust in people, how do you view the evolutions of blockchain technology when it comes to trusting identity, when it comes to governance, including core developers and hardware folks?
I have 2 ways of answering that question. First, blockchains are a technology. They have been created by people, and they're generally created in open systems or open source systems. Open source systems have associated forms of governance, and in contrast to when a group disagrees with the current political government, open source governance can enable exit, basically. It can enable a group of people with a different set of ideas that are not able through voice to convince the canonical group, can enable them to fork the project and explore new ideas, essentially create their own open source country in that way. So foundationally, it is about people forming consensus about what they want to build and how they want to run things. So that's a protocol layer discussion. At the application layer, we built a lot of software products, and we have lots of clients, enterprise, government, NGOs, etc. And everybody in the world is currently interested in identity right now. So blockchain, for the first time in history, enables us to have a global, public, permissionless, transparent, non-repudiable, shared database system that we can all trust. And we can get into the reason why we can all trust it a little bit more later. And so it's really the first context we've ever had for global identity. We at many other groups are looking to build blockchain-based identity. We at ConsenSys partnered with Microsoft and another Bitcoin-based group called Blockstream to build decentralized identity, and it's essentially an identity construct on the Ethereum blockchain, which can be controlled by different kinds of controllers. That construct is a container for reputational attributes and reputational attestation. So you can add your real world data into it, and you can have people in the world, including traditional identity providers, attest to things about your conduct or things about your attributes. So that sort of construct is the only weakness with that sort of construct is if you are, say, using your phone to control this thing and you lose your phone, do you lose aspects of your identity? Do you lose your tokens of value? And so we've created redundant personal recovery systems, social recovery systems, so that you can designate a group of people that you trust, and we expect that there will be services that will enable people to be comfortable that their online identity and assets are safeguarded.
So if I frame it well, this is a complete revolution of the well-known KYC regulated problem for banks and financial institutions. Olaf, how do you manage KYC in your hedge fund?
I do KYC on all investors, but I outsource that to a fund administrator. So, you know, ideally the way I look at this is today your identity on the internet is distributed among many different web services. But each of those web services has a sort of siloed only a slice of your identity. So Facebook has some sort of identity, LinkedIn has an identity, and many of these have a reputation associated with them. So you might have a reputation as an Uber driver or as an eBay seller. You might have a reputation with your bank as someone who has taken out a loan. But you can't carry that reputation with you. When you have a sovereign blockchain-based internet identity, you can carry that with you. So if you're a good Uber driver, that might actually influence your ability to get a loan. If you're a good eBay seller, it might influence how quickly you're able to find connections on LinkedIn. So instead of your data being siloed in each of these individual web services, when you have the sovereign blockchain identity, it comes along with you as you browse the internet.
Which leads me to the next question about how will we trust code. I came to that question because of what happened in the DAO hack in late spring. There was a forum where some guy challenged in 2014 the resiliency of the core script architecture, and somebody asked him, well, in what cases would this vulnerability apply? And a few days after the DAO was hacked, the guy came back and said, well, now. How do you trust code, and how do you build trust in the way code is formed, checked, validated, without leaving any holes or any backdoors behind? I know it's open source, but maintenance will become a critical issue.
Sure, so there are two levels to this discussion. There's the protocol level and the application layer. At the protocol level, as you indicated, Bitcoin has been remarkably solid for approaching 8 years. The reason that's true is because the Bitcoin code base is looked at by many, many thousands of eyes over years. That is the nature of open source. So it's far more scrutinized than any proprietary banking system, for instance. The same is true of the Ethereum protocol, and the Ethereum protocol has been reasonably rock solid. It's a little over a year old right now, but it has done admirably in defending $1 billion in monetary base. It has had some small issues in terms of denial of service attacks that it has withstood. But essentially, open source is the answer to that, and we are doing a good job and continue to create new techniques for doing better jobs. At the application layer, it is a young technology in its early days, and there will be lots of mistakes made. The internet was still is wildly insecure. So software is a very complex endeavor. We at ConsenSys and many others in our space are working to create patterns, architectures that are once implemented secure, but also roll out techniques where, for instance, if we're rolling out a token launch, essentially trying to sell a token to fund a program. There will be software that mediates that endeavor. And instead of just putting the software on the blockchain and hoping to raise $200 million, or we'll never do that actually, but hoping to raise some money, you roll it out incrementally, you attach bug bounties, you bring in external auditors, you have everybody that you know in the ecosystem look at this, and it's a very friendly, cooperative space right now. So lots of techniques, lots of caution.
I think some other interesting things are happening also with other 2.0 protocols. So the way I think about Ethereum, it has what's called a Turing-complete scripting language. This means that anything you could build using traditional software on a centralized server, you can have execute in the blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain. I think that Ethereum's specific semantics of its scripting language are sort of like a computer science language. So you wouldn't build an air traffic control system and Facebook using the same computer science language, the same underlying language. And Bitcoin actually is useful in that it has a very hardened and narrow computer science language, scripting language attached to it that makes it very, very hard to abuse, and it makes it very, very hard to write bugs. Ethereum is sort of on the other side of that spectrum and is a lot more flexible, but it opens up the ability to more easily have errors and bugs. So I actually see space for multiple sort of 2.0 scripting languages that offer different trade-offs between security and flexibility. So there will be Ethereum, but then in the future, just like you have JavaScript and C and Ruby on Rails and all these different CS languages, you will have many different scripting languages with different semantics. People are exploring formally verified scripting languages, and so this is a way to mathematically show that a contract in that blockchain will execute the way you intend it to, as well as governance mechanisms that are actually built into the protocol. So this is like a voting mechanism built actually into the blockchain. So I think there are a lot of really interesting experimental things happening on the fringes, and we will see, because this is all open source, what emerges as a successful method over the next 5 and 10 years.
So as I'm keeping an eye on time, and I'm not sure Marjorie will give me permission to go.
You can go on for 5 more minutes if you will.
Yes, that's what I see. So we will skip the question about oracles and smart contracts. You can talk to our speakers after this panel if you have specific questions about that. I would like to split maybe the last 5 minutes into 2 short questions. One is trust in cryptocurrencies, because on one hand, you see cryptocurrency emerge that are extremely rock solid and that have deployed and are working or operating. On the other hand, beyond or beneath the 2 major ones, Bitcoin and Ethereum, you have 700 others. So the question is, where or how will trust deploy in the long haul in cryptocurrencies at large? Maybe Olaf, you could start.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something I love about the cryptocurrency and blockchain space, is that because it is open source, anyone can take the code associated with Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other blockchain, they can fork it and they can make their own blockchain. This means that the speed of the innovation is truly incredible, because back-end banking software is not open source. So not everyone is looking at this. You know, there are literally 10,000 world-class developers looking at Ethereum and trying to improve it at all times. Most banks don't have that kind of power behind them. They also, can't allow that speed of innovation of, okay, I'm gonna go make my own blockchain and we'll see if it works, and if it doesn't, some customers might have the wrong balance or something. You just can't do that with a traditional financial institution. So I think it's amazing that there is the ability for people to fork and create their own blockchain in this open source ecosystem. It means that things like Ethereum can crop up actually incredibly quickly, because compared to Bitcoin, Ethereum is like a quantum leap. So yeah, I think that said, in many of these other 700 tokens and assets, it very much is the Wild West right now. where these things have a lower bar for security, they are more experimental, and they should only be used by experts.
In 2011, 2012, it was relatively easy to fork a code base and start your own cryptocurrency system and crypto token, but it actually did take weeks or months in different circumstances. That was one of the motivations for Vitalik to build this system. We created a system in which you can write a software object called a smart contract that runs on the Ethereum blockchain and gets the benefit of the full security of the system. And in 10, 15 lines of code, you can create your own new cryptocurrency system and cryptocurrency token. And if you do it according to the token standard called ERC20, then all of the wallets that we're using, all of the exchanges recognize it instantly, and you have just tremendous acceleration and innovation.
And the last question would be, in the trust in the future of blockchain themselves, I was very impressed with this post by Fred Wilson a few weeks ago about the nation-state blockchain, where Mr. Wilson, who is a well-known East Coast investor, was worrying publicly about the fact that the talent and the investments in the US were more and more balanced with a tremendous effort from the Far East, including China, trying to catch up. And my question will be asked to you as a European. We have a tremendous amount of software developers, experts in cryptography, including homomorphic cryptography. We met, Nadia and I, tons of startups all across Europe, but we are still in need for a European expressed will to make Europe strive in that space. Do you think we can achieve that? And what's the potential for Europe in the middle of this US versus China battle?
This innovation is indeed accelerating, and financial technology represents an arms race, in a sense. We work in many countries in the world, and several countries are taking this very seriously and seeing it as a potentially great competitive advantage. The UK is very organized about this, Dubai is very organized, Singapore is getting organized, etc. Because this technology can move so quickly, it is imperative that every nation state take it seriously and jump on it as well, as prudently as possible, source information from around the world. Fortunately, with the acceleration in the development of technology, we're also getting the same thing in communication and sharing of information. So it is dangerous, actually, for a nation state to ignore this technology.
Yeah, just to echo what Joseph said, I think that cryptocurrencies are truly international, so they exist on the internet and they're sort of borderless. What this means is, you know, if I have a bank account in the United States and I don't like something about what my bank is doing, I can't easily open a bank account in Russia or Australia or South Africa and store my money there instead. That's actually very hard. But with Bitcoin and associated cryptocurrencies, it's very, very easy. It's just software. So I can use software from any country in the world to be my sort of cryptocurrency bank, right? And I can use any sort of exchange from anywhere in the world. I can use a Chinese exchange or a Russian exchange or a US-based exchange. So to stay competitive in this space is actually very hard because the users within your country can very easily go elsewhere for those services.
Thank you. So in a nutshell, there is potential all around the world. There is potential for nation states to invest heavily. Europe should probably unite and devote efforts in both R&D funding as well as venture capital investing, and we are working on that with Nadia, but we need the support of other member states. Thank you. I want you to give a warm applause to Joseph and Olaf, who came for a long journey to talk to you guys. Thank you.
And actually, gentlemen, before you do leave the stage, we still have a question. You still have that €20 bill. Philippe gave you. So what are you going to do? Give him back in, I don't know, 20 Ethereum or something? I don't know what the currency of Ethereum is today, but...
Yeah, that would be the final word. The most essential piece of trust is always the trust in people. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you so much again. And I have to tell you that this blockchain session captivated people online. So I think there is still a lot of questions to tackle when it comes to blockchain. But thank you so much for your 3 perspectives.